My name is Andrew Flentje. This is my reflective journal for my negotiations class taught by Dr. McDermott. I basically came to this class thinking that all negotiations had a winner and a loser. I didn't realize that you had to work together and have like an integrative negotiation style to come out with a great outcome. I thought it was zero sum, that there was winner and loser. The concept I really liked, that I've done and I just didn't know, was the distributive bargaining and having your target point, which is your optimal goal, the amount of money you want to spend, and then your resistant point, what you won't go above and below, and just kind of knowing those ahead of time, I really feel like is a great advantage for when you're going in negotiations. I didn't do this beforehand, and I actually think this would have helped me a lot more with some of my sales in the past, is knowing what my resistance points were, because then I could have been more firm about them and it wouldn't have cheapened my product as much. But really what I've taken away from this class most of all is that I need to know my personality as well as other people's personality and how to kind of control and almost manipulate them to work in my favor advantage. That MBTI test was by far the most valuable tool that this class provided, because it really gave me a lot of insight into what my personality was. Basically, I'm ENFJ, and I actually had a split decision, 12 and 12, with thinking and feeling, between the T and the F. But the tie goes to the feelings, and so I'm ENFJ. But after reading it, I think the characteristics describe me really well. I do lead through personal enthusiasm. I'm a very enthusiastic guy. I wear emotion on my shoulder. I like change. I've been to 4 colleges. Obviously, I like change. That could also be a negative, though. I'm a great team leader. That's where I thrive, is in an environment where I'm the leader. Because I love working with people. People are the greatest things ever. The worst job I ever had was working in a stockroom, because I wasn't working with people. And I needed an MBTI test to tell me that. The part that I kind of felt was really interesting about ENFJs is that they can get frustrated. They just get frustrated and they don't feel appreciated. I have that from time to time. I guess I get frustrated, and I left Maryland because I was frustrated with the Smith School of Business and not being able to get into that. But the part I really didn't agree with the MBTI was that I'm overly sensitive to criticism. I can take criticism, no problem. I love it. It helps me learn, helps me get better. I think that's part of having a military father who is always criticizing you to do better and pushing you. So I didn't really agree with that as much. So basically, taking away from the MBTI, there's parts of it that perfectly describe me, and then there's other parts that don't apply to me. You kind of have to understand that it's just a generalization of what that personality is like from just answering those simple questions. Now, like, part of the growth process of my negotiations really focuses on my personality type, because knowing what kind of person I am before I even sit down at the negotiation table or start working with the opposition, it allows me to do a lot more self-monitoring, because that's one of my biggest issues with negotiations is sometimes I get a little overzealous or frustrated, and it shows, and that's not good because that can be used as leverage against me. So I'm trying to keep my cards closer to my chest when I can. So I would be the best negotiator if I was in a situation with a team that had somebody speaking and I'm adding input, and just kind of keeping my emotions separate to it. But as well as like my negotiation style is probably best to be like an integrative negotiator, because I love working with people and helping people, and I find it a lot easier finding a common ground with someone as opposed to trying to beat them up over the numbers, and actually that worked out best when we did the negotiations with the school board, because I was able to help come up with a creative solution to pay off money for the pay raises and using future money that we didn't have yet. That was probably my biggest triumph over this semester in coming up with a creative solution and actually having the negotiations going exactly how we wanted. And part of the negotiations that I really like, because I'm a guy that kind of can get all over the place, is the negotiation agenda, and basically just defining the scope, the sequence of how to address the issues, how to frame the questions that I'm asking, packaging different things together, as well as the formula for how we're gonna get this done. Now, like, the reason I like this agenda is because it really takes it step by step and helps me come up with different questions further on for probing and whatnot. But within this agenda, the thing I really do need to work on is framing. My framing of questions is sometimes, and statements, is a little blunt, and it doesn't really help in situations where I need to be a little bit more discreet and or need to avoid certain topics in a negative light. But this class was great. Really helped to develop some of my techniques and tactics for the negotiations. I found out my personality type, I'm not a good hardballer. I'm not going to hardball anyone or really intimidate them, because I change my voice tone so much. It shows that I'm very enthusiastic. People know I'm not really going to be all muscling over you and forcing you to do what I want. But I love the flinch and crunch technique. I love just being over exaggerating with my facial expressions, like ooh, or something like that, if I don't like the numbers that they come at me, just to kind of convey other than with my mouth that I don't like it. Probing questions, obviously that is the most important aspect of negotiations in my opinion, because if you don't get the answers to the questions that you need, you're not going to be able to get a deal done. In our last negotiation, our numbers were so far apart, we had no chance of getting a deal done that day. And we needed to have more probing questions like, hey, what's the highest you can go, or what's the lowest you can go? Because we're so far apart right now, we really need to figure out what's going on and if we can even do a deal today. And that kind of goes along with does stuff matter that's said early on in negotiations, and it does. If your numbers are so far apart early on in negotiation, you might as well just cut your losses and move on. Best example of this was the car negotiation. Our numbers were so far apart as what we were willing to spend as well as sell for, that a deal just couldn't be done, and we knew that within the first 5 minutes. Like, these probing questions, the best part of developing this was being able to actually use it in real life other than just in negotiation situations. Moving to Norfolk, Virginia, and as a college graduate, I need to find a place other than my parents' house to live. So I'm going into different housing communities and apartments that aren't campus related or oriented. So I'm having to kind of get in there and get all the information I can so I can get the best price possible. I'm going to have to ask more questions like how many break-ins have you had in this community within the last year, or how many car break-ins have you had in the last month, and try to get more specific to the community alone so they can't dance around the answer. And that's kind of that tactic is great just for getting as much information you can from them, and that's been a huge takeaway from this class. I bet everyone's going to say that probing questions, because they're that important, they're that effective and that important in getting to your end goal or result. The power situations in negotiation, I find myself I can adapt to those very easily. People's power doesn't intimidate me, but I also respect it. Again, going back to having a military father, I think that made it really easy in certain situations to kind of adapt to that power. Now, going to houses to look at rental properties, I have more power than they do. They might have the keys, but they also have a vacant unit, and I'm the one that's looking to rent that unit. So I have a little bit more power in that situation, which allows me to be a little bit more forward in asking for them to cut out certain fees, as well as helping maybe reduce the monthly rent to get me in there for a long period of time at least. One of the quotes I love from the book that I found was that negotiators who don't care about their power, or who have matched power equally high or low, find that their deliberation process. Deliberations proceed with greater ease and simplicity towards an acceptable outcome. And I find that true. When your power distances are so far apart, you really just can't find that common ground. And being able to relate to people helps me find that common ground a lot faster. Now, active participation in negotiations, that approach is, really, really requires me to kind of exceed more effort and make sure I'm focusing on the individual that's speaking at that time, and not worrying about what my notes say in front of me, and actually taking notes. So I definitely am going to keep working on that, and I think that's a downfall of my personality is I'm kind of all over the place when taking on a large group of things at once, and I love using language and metaphors to kind of try to convince people, maybe get a smile or a laugh out of them in hopes that they'll see things in my way. Saying like it feels like I'm skydiving naked over the Himalayas. That's just a great image to put in people's head, because that's such a cool, refreshing air. I really like that. I definitely want to keep learning and working on my metaphors and vivid language, because that's going to really help me persuade people more, and that's what I need to do if I'm going to be successful in sales, is be able to be persuasive. Using threats to incite fear, I'm again not very good at that, because I'm not very good at hardballing. I'm not going to really scare anyone. I just don't like it. I don't think it's good. I guess in some situations, my best threat is just walking away, and just leaving it be, and hoping either they come back to me, or I just move on. One of the really cool aspects of negotiation that I liked was learning about Martin Luther King and Winston Churchill, and how they basically would violate the receiver's expectations by just frequently changing their voice and the intensity of it, just to keep the audience's attention. And they did it so successfully about such sensitive topics, that I am going to try to do that more. I'm going to try to be more monotone naturally, and then when I need to be more when I need to emphasize my concept more, or my point more, I can do that by just raising the tone, lowering the tone, speaking faster, speaking slower. I speak a lot slower when I close deals, just so people are thinking a lot of things in their head. If you start speaking really, really fast to them, they think that you're just pressure selling them. So I always slow down when I close deals. Now, this book, again with personality types, like the conflict style, I hate conflict. I really do. I'd rather just have that integrative negotiation going on. Some other stuff that I really, really am going to continue to work on is my self-monitoring. I think that's the most important aspect for negotiators, what to say when and how, and I'm going to continue to do that. But overall, this class has been an excellent tool for me to kind of develop my skills. I'm going to keep this book because, negotiations, everyday life, and I want to be in the business world, either whether it be in sales, hopefully, or management. You need to be able to negotiate people and push them in the direction that you want things to go, or that they need to go. I understand that my personality type and negotiation style have to continue to be worked on and developed. I really took that away from this class, and that by knowing other people's personalities, you can better adapt and relate, as well as work with them. And so that's really what I need to kind of keep working on after this class, is just trying to understand different types of people, because most of the time you hang out, I know it's true in my case, I hang out with people that are very similar to me and have similar interests, just because that's what I like. But the reality is, in the workplace, it's not going to be that way. So just getting to understand people a little bit better will definitely help in the future, just to be more effective and have everything go the way I want it to go. This was a great upper level class to take. I'm really happy I did. It's very applicable to the real world, and I think it should be continued on for semesters to come, because Salisbury students can definitely benefit from the knowledge gained from this class. Thank you very much, Dr. McDermott. Have a great summer, and best luck in China. Bye.